I'm glad you could make it. Coming to you live from the other side of Canada. Well, not exactly live per se, and I guess not exactly the other side of Canada per se, but semantics, okay? I did in fact drive 20 hours to be here, so I feel like I deserve the dramatic of saying I am on the other side of Canada. I am in fact in Prince Edward Island for the entire month of July at my family cottage, and yes, PEI, like this summer will be different PEI. Yes, Carly Fortune did write PEI exactly how I feel like I'm seeing it outside my window, and yes, it is as beautiful of a place as you're thinking it is. That being said, that is not why you're here. You are here because June and the beginning of July had so many amazing releases. So many of my auto-buy absolute favorite authors that I'm constantly recommending to you guys had books come out in the last couple of weeks, and life was lifing just like a tiny bit too hard in the month of June, and I have somehow not been able to read them yet, which feels like an absolute crime to not only myself but also you guys, because I am constantly recommending these books and these authors to you guys and I haven't read them yet. Utter crime. Send me to jail. Send me to jail. So we are going to take this week to try and fix that issue. I feel like my little butt was running to the bookstore every single Tuesday for the last few weeks because so many books were coming out. We had Love Unwritten by Lauren Asher, Not in Love by Ellie Hazelwood, Summer Romance by Annabelle Monaghan, which I didn't even know was a highly anticipated one for me because I haven't read anything by her before, but the reviews that I've seen come in, I think it'll be right up my alley. A Novel Love Story by Ashley Poston, which I did already read in my books I think will be 5 stars video. It was in fact a 5-star. Are we surprised? Miss Ashley Poston can do no wrong. And last but not least, and probably most excitedly, at least for me, is Reckless by Lauren Roberts. I would be absolutely lying to not only you but myself if I were to say that I was not going into these books with the highest of highest expectation. If there's one thing I'm going to do, it is go into a book with an expectation of what I'm going to rate it, and pretty much all of these are authors that I go in with the utmost highest expectations. So I thought it'd be fun to do a week of reading new releases of some of my absolute favorite authors to see where all the ratings, reviews, all that shakes out. And with that being said, I'm also completely lying to you right now. I did in fact already start Reckless by Lauren Roberts. The fact that this has been living in my possessions and I've had the ability to read it for like over a week now feels like an utter crime, okay? That feels like something that I should have never allowed to happen. So you can bet your bottom dollar that the moment I pulled up to this cottage and I was officially done driving and officially had the time to sit down and read, the very first thing I did was open this book up. I'm not that far into it. I'm like 30 or 40 pages into it, and I definitely did not want to read too much of it without talking to you guys first because this is probably the one that the expectations are the highest. Powerless was like a 6-star read for me. Powerful was like a 5-6-star read for me. I feel like she can do no wrong. That being said, I'm hearing a lot of contradicting opinions and reviews of this. I have been trying really hard to like immediately scroll when I see something on TikTok so that I don't spoil it for myself because I know that the ending is gonna fuck me up. I do know that, but I don't want to know anything else. I also didn't even want to know that. I learned that against my will. It is also so much shorter than Powerless. I wish I could have them beside each other so that I could show you to compare them. This is only like 370 pages or something, and Powerless was like 5 something, almost 600 pages. So it's shocking to me that this is a little bit shorter. I have heard a ton of people say that this is kind of like an interim book. It's kind of like in the middle, which to me feels like what you would do with a novella. I don't know. So far, loving it. I feel like I dived right back into this world so quickly. I just love Peyton and Kai. Like, they live rent-free in my brain, and I'm so excited to be in their POVs again. And just, I also do obviously have both the original edition and the special edition of this because if there's one thing I'm going to do, it is not be able to make a decision. And I was at the bookstore trying to decide between them, and the blue is obviously prettier, but the gold doesn't match the white of the rest of the series. And I was with my friend and she was getting fed up with me and she was like, you're just gonna buy both, aren't you? And I mean, she was right. I asked you guys on Instagram which one you thought I should read, and this one won, which I agree. I agree that this is the one that should have won. However, there is a bonus chapter in this one, so both had to come home with me. I feel like simultaneously my expectations for this are through the roof while also kind of being on the floor. The fact that this is so much shorter and that I'm seeing any semblance of contradicting opinions is making me very scared, but there's nothing I can do at this point other than just go in and read it myself. This is the book we're going to be starting with, and this entire week is just going to be a little bit of mood reading, new releases, and hopefully I will not be disappointed by any of them, and all of these authors can stay being my auto-buy authors that I recommend every single thing that they've written to you. Because if there's one thing I can say to these new releases, it is please, please, please don't fucking embarrass me. Don't embarrass me. But I don't think they will, because every other book by these authors, so good. third POV that I was not anticipating we were gonna get. Okay. I didn't even realize how much I miss Pei and Kai banter. Miss Lauren Roberts is just doing God's work writing romantasy for us romantasy girlies. I did that either. I don't have a good answer for you. I am almost halfway through Reckless. I'm on page 177. Is that halfway? Could that be halfway? It couldn't be, right? I never claimed to be good at math. I will live in the delusion that I am right in that statement. It looks to be close to something that could be about halfway. And I'm just gonna say it. I'm gonna come out and say it. I kind of feel like nothing's happening. I said it. I said it. I kind of feel like nothing is happening. If you have somehow no idea what is going on in this series, in the first book, Powerless, we're following Payton, which is an ordinary girl in a world full of elites. This plague has swept through the kingdom of Ilya and everybody has inherited powers. And if you didn't, you get by the king's will. Some stuff has happened and Payton, living as an ordinary in the slums, pretending to be a psychic, finds herself in these elite purging trials with like the most strongest elites in the kingdom, including very own Mr. Kyazar, future enforcer of Ilya. And this book picks up like exactly where Powerless and Powerful lets off. Like seemingly the moment that that book ends, this book starts like right out of the gate. And I will say the first 100 pages of this, I was in there. I was really locked in there. I was locked and loaded into this world. But I will say this feels like quite the departure from Powerless. Writing, story, pacing, everything wise, this feels very different to me than Powerless. Not for better or for worse, at least not yet. I do kind of feel like we're going in circles a little bit. I do kind of feel like nothing has happened and the things that are happening are just kind of happening over and over again. Like we're just kind of talking. I know that this book is supposed to be like a little break before the craziness of the third book, but going from the pacing of the purging trials and everything that made up the first book of Powerless, like the timing and the pacing of Powerless is very in time with the trials. I kind of feel like we're not getting a ton in this. Kai and Pei feel very different in this. I don't know why. They feel very different to me in this. I don't know if I'm just really tired and not overly connected to it yet. This is a romantasy for romantasy lovers. The romance in here, she goes hard. The banter is bantering, at least so far. However, and I know that's what we all loved out of Powerless, okay? However, I do like my banter with at least a side of plot, and I kind of feel like we haven't gotten much yet. The first 100 pages picking up right where Powerless ended, I was like, I love this as a beginning. I love where this is gonna go. And then we kind of hit that 100-page mark, and it's like, what are you gonna do? Oh, still nothing. I feel like I'm talking negatively. It's not, I don't dislike it. I just don't know if I would go so far as to throw the L word quite yet, which I was expecting this to be like a renounding 5-6 star read. Sorry, not my favorite feeling, okay? I don't want to put it down. I'm still loving it. I still love them as characters. It just kind of feels like a novella. I don't know. It feels kind of unimportant so far. And I'm hoping now I'm done my work for the day. I'm done everything. All of my responsibilities have left the chat. So I'm hoping that I can just dive into this, binge into this, put on some ambient music and get in there. I want to love it. Okay, I am maybe changing my tune a little bit because this Kai I can get behind. I can get behind this Kai. The banter is bantering. Tell me just unironically giggling at words on paper. I need help. I'm gonna eat up. I am. So a big part of me doesn't want this to be over, but another really big part of me wants to know how it's gonna end. Forever reading girly contradiction. Let's talk about this because there is lots I feel like that needs to be said. First and foremost, I know you were all wondering. I settled on giving it a 4. Now hear me out. This is kind of a generous 4. It's realistically like a 3.75, but it gave me at least 4-star feelings because I would do anything for Peyton and Kai, okay? Was this good for what it was? 100%. It was so entertaining. I hit about the 50% mark and I really remembered why I loved Kai and Peyton so much. Like I feel like if you read the books like in succession, like if you read Powerless recently and you had like a fresher memory of how much we love them from the first book, this would have hit like right from the beginning. I feel like I got to the 50% mark and I was like, okay, now I'm remembering why I love them, why their banter is so good, why I'm obsessed with them, why I wish that they were real humans, that I could give a hug every once in a while. Once I got to that point, I was like, okay, yeah, it's good. It's really good. But then it just kind of was the same thing over and over again. For what this was, the book that is to follow up Powerless, after the novella Powerful, interesting choice. Interesting choice. Not a bad one, but an interesting choice. To follow up Powerless with kind of this like fluffy, nothing happened. Nothing happened. The thing that was so good about Powerless was the banter, but that's because we also got plot. We also got story. We also got trials. We also got the whole plot of this world. So many things were like just vaguely touched on in this and then gone. I do really feel like the third book in the series is going to wrap everything together. A lot of things that were like briefly mentioned in this that really could have been elaborated on, in my opinion, in this will be touched on in the third book. I totally understand that this was supposed to be a breather book. It was supposed to be Kai and Peyton's book. It was supposed to be what it is, and like I'm not questioning Miss Lauren Roberts at all because she has a master plan, and at the end of the day she is the author. She can do literally whatever the fuck she wants with this series. She can make it one word if she wanted to. I'm sure it wouldn't get published, but I mean if she wanted to, she could. Was it good for what it was? 100%. I keep saying K and pie instead of pie and K. I keep saying K and pie instead of pay and Kai. I've never realized how many times have I said that wrong in this. Probably a lot. In my opinion, it read kind of like the novella that would follow Powerless. Like it felt like the intermission to what would be the next book in the series. It was good. It was entertaining. Don't get me wrong. I just really kind of feel like nothing happened. The banter was definitely so good. And that's what Miss Lauren Roberts does so well. She does characters so well. But I feel like we met a lot of people and it didn't go anywhere. We were introduced to a lot of plots. It also didn't go anywhere. And we were just kind of waking up and doing a day and then going to bed. Like there was no story arc. I don't know. I love Peyton and Kai. I know that I will take absolute breadcrumbs of those characters for the rest of my life and be totally happy. Is this what I expected from Reckless? Absolutely not. Not even in a little bit. But I would take anything from them. I love these characters with everything in me. I trust Miss Lauren Roberts and I trust that the third book has potential to be the best in the series. It's a generous 4 stars because for what it is, it's very, very well written. The characters are very enjoyable. The writing is enjoyable. What happened was done well. Just nothing happened. I waited so long for you. I waited so long. And now we have to wait another year to find out if something's gonna happen. Peyton and Kai 5 ever. However, this read like a novella, not like the second book in a trilogy. Okay, I think that's the best way to explain it. That being said, I did finish that like 2-ish days ago now, and I did go directly into Love Unwritten by Lauren Asher. I'm like just past 100 pages in. I'm 150 pages into this so far, which is shocking to me because I feel like I've sat down to read this like on one occasion. I find her books read so quickly. This is a book that follows up Love Redesign, the first book in her Lakefront Billionaire series, and this one also came out in June. Obviously, this is a new releases video, so you knew it came out in June. I feel like we haven't gotten a lot. This is a really long romance. I stand on the fact that a romance does not need to be 600 pages. However, it does feel like I've read like 30 pages. Her books are really entertaining and they move really quickly. They read fast. The pacing is really good. We're getting a lot of backstory, which is great. I think realistically we have to get a lot of backstory if it's going to be an over 500 page romance. I think it's over 600 pages. However, I have no opinions on the love interests yet. The banter is vaguely starting to banter. Our 2 point of views and our 2 main characters are Raphael and Ellie. If you've read Love Redesigned, Raphael is the cousin to Julian Lopez, the main character in that book. Ellie is his son's nanny. I know that it's between the 2 of them because I mean, like, obviously we're getting both their POVs. That is not a spoiler. And I know at some point we go to Hawaii. However, 150 pages in, we aren't quite there yet, but we're getting plot, we're getting storyline, we're getting developments. The characters both definitely deal with a lot of underlying trauma. And I'm excited to see how it plays out. I'm not excited to see how it plays out. Excited is not a word that should ever go beside trauma. I'm anticipating to see how that plays out, to have like very 3-dimensional characters. I've heard that this is so many people's favorite Lauren Asher book, and it's reading very Lauren Asher for me. If there's one thing Lauren Asher does well, it is build a book boyfriend. She's so good at it. She does book boyfriends like no one else. And the fact that we always get their POVs and they're always like a bit kind of grumpy and assholes, and then you get their point of view and you understand why they're the way they are, and you're like, oh, I forgive you. this book match. That's adorable. Kids in books can be so hit or miss. Like, you can have kids that are supposed to be like 3 years old that are like bestowing some philosophical metaphor on someone's life, like on a literal random Tuesday. And then sometimes you'll have kids that are just like annoying in books. Like, why are you here? You're not really adding to the plot. But Nico in this is part 1 adorable. Part 2 is such a driving force to this plot. Like, I feel the love that they both have for this kid through the pages. Like, I love this kid with everything in me. I want to give this kid a hug more than I want to give the main characters a hug, which it's hard to do kids in books well. And I feel like she's doing Nico in this so well. Like, he feels like a real character, not just like an accessory to the story. Cheers to being halfway done Love Unwritten. That was the most cheesy thing I've ever done in my entire life. I feel the exact same way about this that I felt about Love Redesigned, which was I was going in with like little to no expectations. Like, I was expecting it to be good, and I forget every time how much I fall in love with her characters and how quickly. I'm on page 266, so like almost halfway, like about to hit the halfway point. And I feel like every single time that I pick this up, I read so much. Like, it reads so fast. I feel like I'll look up and it'll have been 10 minutes, but I'll have read like 15 pages. I don't know what it is about her writing or just of the story is so digestible that it just reads so fast. Like, I was anticipating this would take me a lot longer to get to here, and I feel like I sit down and I read so much of it. Lauren Asher does book boyfriends like quite literally no one else on this planet. Like, she does a specific type of book boyfriend, which is 9 times out of 10 like this moody, grumpy guy who like you can't crack into his shell, but he has like so much trauma and stuff that he's carrying with him, especially in this one. Like, I feel like there's the most trauma and like borderline trigger warning. There's a trigger warning thing at the beginning of this. In this book, both the characters have so much trauma, and you're learning about it so slowly. Like, the book is so long. I don't think she could have accomplished what she's doing in this so far if it were any shorter. So for that, I'm okay that it's so far like a 600-page romance, because 9 times out of 10 I will tell you a romance does not need to be more than like 400 pages. However, in this case I think it does, because this morning I got to page like 200 and I looked at Rachel and I was like, why am I gonna cry? Like, why am I gonna cry? Because I know so much about these characters and they feel so real to me. You're slowly uncovering things about them that makes the little comments that they've said to each other about things that they haven't confided in each other about before so emotional. Like, so much about this book is truly emotional, and there's so many little Easter eggs from the very beginning of it that you get answers for slowly. I'm just obsessed with what she's doing in this so far. At the point that I'm at now, they are in Hawaii. It's very like tension, very banter. Her male main characters always read kind of the same, but like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Music and songs and like singing in books usually gives me the ick, and there's been a couple times in this that I'm like, why are we writing that song a little bit? Why'd you look at me?
Because I was like, wait, you can write songs? Like, in like, what do you mean? Like, how
like,
do you...
she's a songwriter, so she writes like lyrics in this, and they like sing. Wait, and like play piano and stuff.
Oh, do you like know what it sounds like?
No,
like...
it's just, it comes off cringy because you can't hear it. Like, I've never read a song done well. Yeah, I don't know. It's usually these like morally gray characters that like are finance CEOs, are making millions of dollars.
Correct. And they serenade? Correct.
And then they just sing like some country song.
It's their, yes, that's my dream. Sorry, interrupted.
It's like unanimously decided that the singing in Twisted Love that I haven't even read yet is like the ickiest thing ever. Like, when they're singing to each other, there's not a lot of singing in this, that's not what I mean. But some of the music stuff in this and like the made up lyrics sometimes takes me out of a book, and it's doing it a tiny bit in this, but it's such a big part of her story that it's good. And also the kid in this, I'm obsessed with the kid in this. He says things at the right moment, and I'm calling it now. We're getting a dad, I know you love her, obviously, like it's clear as day moment. I don't know, that's not a spoiler, but I'm calling it. I think we're gonna get one of those, and I mean, like, it's a romance novel. It's not a spoiler that like they're realistically gonna get together. I'm eating it up. I'm loving every single second of it. There's thunder and Rachel's scared.
tired. Thunder. I'm sorry, I keep interrupting your
Oh, that's okay. I'm loving every single second of it so much more than I thought I was going to. Characters I'm realizing I'm so obsessed with and so locked in. Like I haven't been this locked into a romance in like what feels like a really long time. I don't know. It's like a very specific type of locked in where like the characters really feel like real people because you have such a 3D view of them. You know so much about them. And I love that you're getting little bits of characters in their POVs that they haven't shared with each other yet, but it influences why they act the way they do. I've said this about Lauren Asher a couple of times. Her male characters will do something that you're like, why did you do that? That was shitty. And then you get their POV and you're like, oh, I want to give you a hug. I forgive you. It's fine. It's totally fine. I understand where you're coming from. She does that so well. I fear she is eating with this book. I fear with this much left, something may go wrong. Simply the most epilogues that I've ever seen in a book ever. I fear there were like 5, but I fear they were also needed. I feel like this book could not have ended without the time jumps we got at the end there, but for people who skip the epilogue, you definitely can in this one. Officially done Love Unwritten, and renounding without a shadow of a doubt. I finished it a second ago and I had already decided that it was going to be, like before even wrapping up the last page, 5-star read. Lauren Asher. I fear this is your magnum opus. But actually though, this is perfect. There's not a page, sentence, word, anything in this that I would change. And she's long. And she's very heavily annotated. I fear you can't even tell from this far away, but every other page in here. I'm obsessed with this story. Usually kids in books are really hard to do. Like it's hit or miss. And this was the absolute perfect setup book plot line ever. The fact that she was his nanny first and that she and the kid had such a relationship going in, it made the single dad romance bleed so much harder. The part that got me at the end of this, I cried a lot during this. Like a lot of like happy tears, like a, oh my God, I care so much about these characters. It's the slowest of slow burns. I'm so invested in them and their story. And then you get these adorable teeny tiny moments that are just like perfect, like very much book romance perfection. Feel real and feel like they could be real and feel like they could be real people, that this is happening to them, and like what they've been through, they deserve it. But the moment that made me absolute sob, maybe not sob, but like really happy tear up. I'm gonna tear up thinking about it again. I just finished it, so it's valid. At the end was more between the fact that there is the 3 of them and like there isn't just acceptance from the kid, which I feel like is what you get in a lot of books, but it's just like they have their own relationship, their own love. The kid in this, he started off being like cute and fun, and then he was so important to the plot. Like the plot couldn't have gone where it went and been as good as it was if it weren't for the kid in this book. And I have never said that. I don't mind kids in books. Sometimes it's done poorly and it's kind of like a detriment, like it's a point off. But in this, it is 100,000 points added. I'm so obsessed with this story. Lauren Asher did such a good job with this. Reading the fine print or even like Throttled from her first series to going to reading this is perfection. Like I cannot wait to see where the series goes. I feel like I have a guess of who's gonna be in the next book and I'm so excited. I finished Love Redesigned and I was like, that was really good. It was way better than anything else I read by her. But like when this comes out, it comes out. And now I fear this is like one of the series that I'm going to be desperately waiting for. Like I was waiting for the last books in Chestnut Springs. Ripped my heart out, absolutely ripped my heart out. This was the slowest of slow burns, but it read so fast. It didn't feel that slow. Like I was so lost in the story every time I picked it up. I feel like I was reading it so fast. I was never picking up my phone. I felt so lost in this couple in this story, which like it's not totally common for me with romance. Like I feel like with romance, I really enjoy it and I can get lost in the end of a romance, but like a lot of the time I'm okay to like pick up and check my phone if I get a notification or something. I was not having that with this. I was like very lost in this. It was not even until like I want to say the 2/3, 3/4 mark that we got like any sort of breaking of tension. Like that line of tension was pulled so taut the entirety of the book, and then when it snapped a little bit, it snapped so slow. The pacing, the plot, the way that this romance unfolds, perfection. I feel like these are the heaviest topics I've read that Lauren Asher explored, and I feel like they added to the story without being like the only part of the story so beautifully. These characters feel like real, well-rounded, full humans to me. It's not just like they have things thrown onto their personalities and then it's like not, and then it doesn't like make sense to them. Like the characters feel rounded by what they've been through and the way that we learn what they've been through, like slowly but surely. The fact that she's this music writer in this, I was expecting to hate, and even like the lyrics in there, it's always a little bit cringy. I don't know, maybe that's just me. In this, I kind of loved it. Miss Lauren Asher absolutely ripped my heart out. If there's one thing that she does to an absolute T and so well, it is end a chapter on a mic drop. Like she keeps you reading. If you have not read this series yet, definitely read Love Redesigned first. They connect like a lot, and the family in this, and like the whole cast of characters in this, and it gives very much found family. I could tear up thinking about this still, so I'm gonna stop. That I have been cackling at this since page 1, the way that he is obsessed with her from the moment he lays his eyes on her, and how absolutely iconically hilarious she is. Like she doesn't know she's funny, and that's what makes her so fucking funny. Hey, mind your business, mind your business. I am like 144 pages into Not in Love, like literally almost the halfway mark, which is crazy because I feel like I've been reading really long books, and I fear I'm going to finish this in like literally one more sitting. It's so bingeable and like so easy to read. I love the way Ali Hazelwood writes. I feel like I didn't even know how much I desperately wanted a new Ali Hazelwood STEM romance. Like I love everything Ali Hazelwood, do not get me wrong. I have not read Chuck and Mate yet, so I don't know what she does young adult wise, but her writing, I will always eat it up, and Bride was so good. But I feel like I was waiting for another like cutesy fun rom-com-y STEM romance from Ali Hazelwood, and I knew that I was waiting for it. I knew I was excited for it, but being in there again, just love the way she writes her characters. These like quirky, kind of eccentric, with big personalities that like don't even know they're funny kind of main characters that just lives rent-free in my head. At the very beginning of this, literally page 1 to page 25, I was like cackling, literally giggling, like sitting on the beach with Rachel, reading so much out loud to her. The way that Ali Hazelwood writes, it's so annotatable because it's funny. Oh my god, from the gate, so funny. I will say the beginning started off like I was like, I don't know how this could be anything less than a 5-star. Now in the middle, I'm kind of like meh about it. That's not what I mean. It's sitting, if I were to how to rate it, if it ended right here, it'd be like a 4.5, like a 4.25. I'm loving it. The very beginning, I was literally laughing my pants off, but now that we're more into the story, I'm still liking it. I'm just laughing a little bit less. Was that really dramatic? Like I really like it. That's not what I mean. It didn't get worse. Slightly less excited for what the rest will be than I was in the beginning, which was like 110%. Now I'm like 99%. We're following Rue and Eli. I was nervous going into this one because it was definitely marketed as being like much spicier, and she even said herself that it's like more of like an erotic romance than like her typical romances might fall into. So I was nervous that it was gonna be like kind of just spice, which like love that if that's your jam. I usually just like can't get behind it. I'm normally just like, why am I reading this? I need some plot with my spice. So I was nervous we weren't gonna get that. We're getting that. I feel like we didn't get spice until like a good chunk in, and it's not like egregious spice, at least not so far, that I'm like ugh, because I got that with Credence, and I fear I've never recovered. And now when things are marketed to me like that, I'm like, I don't know if I can handle this again. This is nothing like that. Rue is our quirky, fun main character scientist. This is also dual POV, which I don't think I've seen Ellie Hazelwood do dual POV. Am I misremembering? I also think that's maybe why I'm not enthralled as much, because I feel like because we don't know what the men are thinking, it makes it a little bit better because then you're just in the female's perspective. And not knowing is sometimes the fun part. We'll see how it all wraps up. So far, I actually like having his perspective in this story a lot because this man is fucking obsessed with Rue from the moment he sees her. She can breathe and he'll be like, I've never seen someone breathe in a way like that. Like, I don't think I've ever recovered. There's a line that I've seen posted on my timeline hundreds of times that when I got to it and in the moment I got to it, I was like, I get it. I get why you posted it. Your damn mouth is the most obscenely lovely thing I've ever had the burden of seeing. I've literally tried to tell you what this is about and got sidetracked, I think 3 times now. Rue is our scientist, okay? She's working at this firm called Klein, got hired on by Florence Klein, and they have become really fast, quick friends. Rue doesn't really do social interactions. She has her best friend, Tish, and then now her friend, Florence, who owns Klein, the company that she works for, which owns the patent of this extremely ready for market, extremely profitable patent for a biofuel tech. I'm regurgitating words. I'm not totally getting them. That's totally fine. You can read Ellie Hazelwood's STEM romances and not understand the science and it'll still hit. Promise you with everything in me. And both Rue and Eli have some trauma that's like not completely divulged at this point, and like I obviously wouldn't divulge to you because that's part of the reading experience. That makes it so that they both don't really want emotional connection, so they use apps for just the physical one. And they meet on one of these apps and they meet up for just a physical altercation. Altercation is so aggressive. Experience when someone shows up and interrupts it and never ends up happening. And then come to find Rue comes into work the next day and Eli's company bought out their loan and is essentially trying to take over their company. This company means everything to Rue. It is the financial stability she did not have as a child. It is the friendship she has made with Florence Klein. And these characters are so inextricably drawn to each other, but they both have walls up for different reasons and they're both ready to act on some things and not ready to act on some things and pushing and pulling. And it's so good. And I just realized I've literally been talking to you for 7.5 minutes and I fear I've said absolutely nothing. I think that is the best synopsis I could give you at this time. Anything science related, don't ask me. However, the romance part of this, I feel like maybe I have a kind of enough of a grasp, but I told you correctly. Loving it. Love her writing. Are we surprised? It's Ellie Hazelwood. It's only 350 pages. Couple of days ago, but it was at night and I was so convinced in my brain that I had filmed a clip telling you what I thought about it, and now I've gone looking for it and I cannot find it anywhere. I guess I was a tired induced dream that ever happened. Honestly, going into this, my expectations were like completely split down the middle. The fact that it was marketed as more of like an erotic romance-esque thing made my expectations really low, but the fact that it was Ellie Hazelwood made my expectations really high, so I didn't really know what I was expecting going in. I feel like everything I wanted out of an Ellie Hazelwood book and like an enjoyable Ellie Hazelwood read, I got in this. I feel like the best way to explain this is instead of the driving force being really science heavy, like if you replace all of the science in like Love Theoretically or Love on the Brain with spice in this, that is kind of like the flop. Not a flop. That's like the exchange. And I'm not saying that there's no science in this or that there's no spice in the other books. I'm not saying they're replaceable in that regard. I just mean the amount of like science talk in most of her other STEM romances is spice, at least talk in this book. The entire driving force of their relationship is very, very physical. Like the physical part is the part that's doable for our main character, versus I feel like in Ellie Hazelwood's books, it's usually the other way around. I loved Rue in this. I loved Eli in this. Like he fell fucking hard. The shit he said to this woman, the things he did, and he, again, kind of like Jack and Elsie in Love Theoretically, he facilitated the growth that she needed to go on. He gave her the room. Ellie Hazelwood's books feel really realistic because it's not like just like a flip on a dime. And I feel like also books where the characters have like traumatic pasts or have a lot of trust issues can sometimes read a little bit repetitive. I said what I said. I don't mean it as a bad thing. It can be really good for a really good plot that you really care about the character, but it can sometimes read really repetitive. Like if you have a trust issue and you're doing like the same things over and over again and you're constantly not trusting them, can also be kind of not that fun to read about. The trust issues in this, I feel like read A, really realistic to life and be really well. Like, they weren't boring and it wasn't annoying, because every single time that they came out, it was because we dealt with the issue that we had previously, and now something bigger, something more full force, something with a bigger part of a relationship came forward, and then that's when the trust issues came out. They facilitated each other. Like, instead of it being like something happened, it made my trust issues come out, and then over and over and over again, it was like something happened, it kind of made my trust issues come out, dealt with it, something bigger happened, that kind of brought different stuff out, we dealt with it, then something bigger happened. You get the gist. It was so well paced. I feel like so much happened in a short amount of time, but it was so well paced. I love Ali Hazelwood's writing. The way she writes is so satisfying. Like, I feel like her word choice is kind of big, not really, but I mean like a little bit, but she uses such particular wording that it's like that exactly encompasses what that character is feeling. Instead of spending like paragraph trying to explain something in like more layman terms, she just says things perfectly, and they're always well paced and they're always the right length. I'm obsessed with the tab colors that I used in this book. I really liked this. I think if I had to rate it with all of the other Ali Hazelwood books that I've read, I feel like we're going Bride, Love Theoretically, and then this. That's where I'm sitting right now. I'm gonna settle on giving it a 4.25. It was not a 4-star read, maybe a 4.5. It was not a 4-star read, but it was definitely not a 5. It wasn't like my favorite Ali Hazelwood of all time, but it was so good. It did what it needed to do. Realistically, a lot more than I thought I was going to for it being marketed as an erotic romance. And that was a couple days of reading new releases that definitely came out quite a while ago now, but that I finally got around to reading for the most part. I mean, in totality, I'm not disappointed with anything. Realistically, I trust Lauren Roberts and her vision with everything. Was Reckless what I was expecting? No. Have I now since learned about the second book in a YA trilogy fantasy series, Curse? I have. I also totally trust, after hearing everything Lauren Roberts said, that she has a vision for it and that book 3 is gonna do what it needs to do. I love Kai and Payton. I will take breadcrumbs from them forever. Love Unwritten, like one of my favorite romances of all time now. I think about Ellie and Raphael constantly. And then Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood did exactly what it needed to do. Let me know if you guys have read any of these and what you thought about them, or what new releases you're like desperately waiting for. I love a good new release video. There's nothing like chatting about books that we've all recently read. There's nothing better. And I hope to see you in the next one. Love you. Bye. I love getting new releases from authors that get to stay auto by authors.